Well, how are you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. So today we're going to be doing second lord in the seventh house, and what happens when the planet that controls your second house in your horoscope is sitting in the seventh house of your horoscope. Okay, so lord of the second is in the seventh house, and lord, as in what I mean is that planet, the sign that is controlled by the planet, becomes the lord of that sign. And when it goes into the seventh house, that's the concept we're talking here. So what is second house? Second house represents your wealth, represents your accumulated wealth, your savings, your family assets, your family wealth, your family, dealing with family. It represents your speech because it represents the throat, your speaking ability. It represents your intake of food and drinks. Okay, it's pretty much what you value in life. It's family lineage, family's culture, and family's creative art, and all kinds of festivals are represented by the second house. And when that goes into the seventh house, well, what is seventh house? Seventh house is basically the house of marriage, house of spouse, house of other people. You're dealing with just other people, how you deal with other people. It is a house of legal partnership because marriage is also a legal partnership and business partnership. It's trading. It also represents foreign lands because it is fourth from the fourth house. Fourth house is your home. Fourth from the fourth is the seventh house, represents a home away from home. So it represents foreign lands, or not just foreign lands, but moving away from home is seen from the seventh house. So what happens when this planet comes in the seventh house? What it shows is that your ability to accumulate wealth, your ability to accumulate assets will come through partnerships, will come through marriage, will come through dealing with other people. What happens is these people rely mostly on their partners and their spouses to help them make the wealth. They are very good at dealing with other people. They value, because second house is value, they value opinions of other people. They value dealing with other people and learning from other people. Their sense of value always comes through other people. And this is not just family. This actually means any stranger out there is representing the things that you value. It shows that your savings and your assets are built whenever you go into a business, whenever you go into a business partnership especially, and especially you can build your wealth when you do business with your spouse. But the thing is though, is that you rely on other people to provide you with your savings and assets. You rely on your spouse, whether male or female. There are male out there who just rely on their spouse. Oh yeah, go make the money, So you can look at it in a positive way, in a negative way. In a negative way, this can show that somebody who's just relies on another person to do the work, and they just want to accumulate wealth through them. In a good way, it can represent somebody who wants to build their wealth along with other people, especially their partner. Okay, their sense of value, their sense of prestige of family comes through marriage, through any kind of legal partnership. Maybe your family image was suffering a lot. You started a business partnership with somebody, and suddenly everything became well. Your family's prestige became well, So, and also what happens is that since your wealth, the lord of the wealth is going in the seventh house, shows that there's going to be a lot of money spent on the spouse as well. And there's going to be a lot of assets and wealth spent on joint ventures as well. Okay. However, this will differentiate depending upon what planet is ruling your second house. So let's say if Sun rules your second house and goes into the seventh house. First of all, what it shows is that Sun is a very hot planet, and Sun is a mild malefic planet. And wherever Sun sits, it kind of burns the significance of that house. And Sun is what? Sun is your ego, Sun is your personality, Sun is your self-esteem, Sun is your father, Sun is government. And when it goes into the seventh house, it shows that there's a lot of ego battles happening in the marriage regarding assets and family's wealth, including your savings. There's a lot of ego battles. This can produce a lot of ego, like you. See, if this is your house, second house. And the Lord of that is going into the 7th house. What this shows that you project a lot of ego onto the other person. You become this demanding king on the other person. And nobody's going to like that, so the other person will retaliate. This is screw you. I'm not going to do this for you. And then so a lot of things happen in that way with Sun. But, on the positive way, this can show that you have the ability and a leadership to manage other people, to manage a situation in business partnership, to manage a situation in marriage. The only thing you got to be careful of is not let your ego get in the way. Do not start becoming a dictator. A king is different from a dictator. Dictator rules the other person. A king manages and advises other people. So try to become a true king instead of trying to manage other people. But here really it's just the marriage, the assets of marriage will get burned through the ego battles in the marriage. Let's say Moon. Moon controls your 2nd house, and Moon goes into the 7th house, shows that your mental peace and your ability to find, peace within your mind comes when you interact with your spouse, when you gain knowledge through your spouse, or when you are dealing with other people. Your mind is truly affected by other people, especially spouse, or not just spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend as well, because they're in a way a temporary spouse. So it shows that you gain your knowledge through other people as well as you accumulate your wealth through the spouse. So when Moon goes into the 7th house, it shows Moon is your mother, okay, in astrology. So what it shows, your Moon is, your mother is going to be involved in your marriage. She's going to have a say in your marriage. You're going to look for a partner that is like your mother because she's so involved in your life, in your business. And it could be a positive, negative thing depending upon what sign Moon is placed. And since in this case it's placed in the sign of Sagittarius, shows that you will get a spouse who will become kind of like your mother. And yet your emotional stability will come through that come to the spouse, and they will give you a lot of mental peace through their wisdom and through their philosophical knowledge. But it could be a good or bad thing. Like a lot of people complain, oh my God, I hate my mother-in-law, she's always involved in my life. I hate my father-in-law, he's always involved with my life. That could happen with Sun and Moon in the 7th house, because you're taking your family into the 7th house. So mother is involved. If Sun went into the 7th house, father will be involved. So, and in the sign of Capricorn, where Sun is as a 2nd lord, it can show that a father is very strict and very disciplined regarding who you marry, who you don't. And that's where the ego clash will come with the father as well. You say, I want to marry her. He says, you don't want to know, you're not going to get married here. And this is how you can see obstruction in marriage through parents. Like, oh, your parents are not letting you marry. These are the things that you need to look for with these house lord placement. This is why it's so important to look at these house lord placement. Let's say Mercury comes into the 7th house. Mercury is what? Mercury is your business skills. Mercury is education, business, your speech, your writing skills, your skills of the hands. So what it shows that you're very good in business. Your 2nd house of family business, the house that represents business, and now Mercury is going in the 7th house of dealing with other people, shows that you're very good at dealing with people when it comes to sales. You know how to talk to people, and you love talking to people. You want to be involved with other people. Your sense of value comes when you are talking with other people. So it can show mass communication with other people, a public speaker, a writer who talks, somebody who may be even a mimicking actor, because it's in front of the public, in front of the people. You're very good at business, and it shows that your sense of value comes in when there's a lot of communication with your spouse. There's a lot of communication happening with the spouse. There's a lot of communication happening in a legal business partnership, and it shows that your sibling might be involved in your deciding the partner in your life. Your partner your siblings will be like, okay, marry her, don't marry her. Your friends will say, don't marry her, don't marry her. So there's could be involvement of friends and something to do with your marriage. But Mercury is a very business-minded person, so it can show that your spouse can be a bit in business. Your spouse could be a teacher. Your spouse, could be a writer themselves, and they increase your value by bringing their own business in and merging in with yours. But really, your sense of value and your savings and wealth are built when you communicate with other people. Simple as that. Venus is the second lord. It goes into the seventh house. Venus is what? Venus is actually the significator of the seventh house. Venus is your spouse, your marriage, for both men and women. And for a man, it represents wife. It represents your sensual pleasures, romance, love, relationship, sexual pleasures. So it shows your sense of value comes in when you are involved in relationships and in sensual pleasures with other people. This can show somebody who's always involved in relationships. Your sense of value is increased whenever you're in a relationship. Whenever you're in a relationship, you feel like, I feel safe, I feel secure. Second house is really security. Your security comes through your spouse. Your spouse might will bring income and will bring, and as well, they will bring beauty, art, and culture into your life, which will add value to you. Okay, and but I'm not doing the sign placements because each sign placement will require me additional 10 minutes to talk about them. But this is a very strong indication when a planet goes there as a house lord. But I will discuss later on when we do planets through ascendants, where each planet I will discuss for 5 to 10 minutes and give you the actual detail. If I do it here, it'll be like an hour long, hour long video, and it's just too much for me right now. But you get a sense of strong indication of what's happening here. Your sensual pleasures, your pleasure for art and culture is emphasized through dealing with other people and dealing in your marriage. Your sense of conveniency, because vehicles, conveniency, everything is represented by Venus. So your spouse may add vehicles in your life, add conveniency in your life. But depending upon the sign, it may be high, it may be low. Okay? Let's say Mars. Mars goes into the seventh house as the second house lord. Mars is, first of all, a natural malefic planet. Mars as a second house lord goes into the seventh house, shows that there's a lot of power struggle with your spouse. There's a lot of arguments and energy and strength in marriage, meaning that because Mars is soldier, Mars is fighting skills, Mars is your energy, Mars is your willpower, your ability to go out and fight. So what is Mars is doing? Your sense of value is now coming through being in a power struggle with other people. So in a way, it could be a bad thing. This could be a karka for 2 marriages, because of the fact you had such a bad experience in your marriage regarding physical violence or including verbal violence, because Mars rules the second house of voice, and there was just a lot of turmoil and energy with your spouse, and it didn't work out. But in a good way, if Mars is well placed and Mars receives an aspect of Jupiter, shows that there was a lot of passion in the marriage. There was a lot of energy in the marriage. Marriage gave you a sense of strength, and sense of strength became your value. But Mars is a natural malefic planet. It will always bring some sort of a maleficness into the marriage. Okay, and again, and if it's if let's say you're born in the hora of the sun, your ascendant was born in the hora of the sun, that means Mars will do far better than if you were born in the hora of the moon, because in hora of the moon, the first, 4th, 8th, 10th, and 11th house become strong. In hora of the sun, the 2nd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 12th house become strong. So when you're born in the hora of the sun, Mars will actually help you. In the hora of the moon, it can bring a lot of, again, ego and power struggle with your other partner. So Jupiter, as a second lord, goes into the 7th house. What Jupiter shows is that your sense of higher learning and philosophical teachings and philosophical lessons and religious lessons will come through dealing with other people. When you interact with strangers, when you interact with your spouse will be very orthodox, religion, conservative. They will add a sense of lot of, spiritual and philosophical value to you. It can also show that your spouse will also be involved in your family business regarding, let's say, restaurant, food. All of these things are represented by Jupiter. Jupiter can also show banking. Your spouse could be in banking, and through that you gain your wealth, because your spouse might have been in banking. They came into your life, and suddenly their assets now become your assets, and you start to gain wealth. So really, any planet here, first of the thing they will show is that through a spouse, some sort of a thing will happen. Whether it'll be loss of value or whether it'll be gain of value will be on the sign placement, and especially nakshatra placement. Okay, Saturn rules your second house, and Saturn goes into the 7th house. What happens when Saturn goes into the 7th house? First of all, Saturn is a very cold planet, realistic planet. It's a planet of discipline, organization, structure, delay, boundaries, slowness, okay? But in actuality, Saturn will help you here with your marriage. Why? Because of the fact you will not be fooled by any illusionary things in marriage. Like, oh, that nice little romantic honeymoon phase in the relationship is there, and I'm all, in this cloud nine, and suddenly the reality kicks in, and then you're like, this is the worst relationship ever. What Saturn does here, your value comes from dealing with people, other people, okay? But it shows very real people. People who will show you their true nature. People who will be like, hey, this is who I am. I am straightforward, I'm direct, and this is the reality of the world. So what happens is their sense of value is really becomes strong because they're like, no, I know exactly what the world is. It's not all like the Bollywood movies where the romantic love flourishes and in the end the boy and girl win. Oh no, there can be divorces, there can be separations. So Saturn, what it does, it sets a boundary. It shows a spouse that you will get a spouse that will be very realistic. Maybe she'll be in law or he'll be in law or any kind of a mechanical field, engineering field. They can be working in an oil or they can be working in an iron or steel field. And what they will do, they will add a sense of realistic value to you. And they will add value with slowness and with delay. Meaning that you will get married later on in life, in your mid-30s, after 36. And if you married before like 28 or 29, it can also show separation because Saturn is teaching you something here. He's like, look, man, you did something in your past life, so I'm going to delay certain things here. So he will delay relationship. And they're like, if you're forcing yourself to get an early relationship, okay, fine, I'll separate you from that. I have no problem with that. I can do that in my sleep, just going around the sun. So what it shows that your real sense of value and lessons of life are learned through your first 30s, and after that you start implementing them, understanding them. You become your relationship with the spouse is very realistic. There's love, there is emotions there, but very realistic emotions that yes, you are providing me something and I'm providing you something, and let's keep this going for our kids, for our sense of value, culture, and our accumulated wealth. Let's keep everything intact, organized, and let's deal with that. And Saturn, what it does, when these people form businessship early on in life, when they start to interact with other people, they'll either run into wrong people or they'll be rejected. But with time, Saturn will start giving them the right results. Saturn will start flourishing them. Now, if Jupiter aspects Saturn from the ascendant or third house or from the 11th house, it will nullify Saturn's effect. So you will not get a partner such late in life. You may be married at 27, 28. There will be a lot more optimism in marriage. It won't be just a harsh reality of life. But that's what Saturn does. Saturn is natural malefic planet. And it can also show second marriage too, because of the fact you may not have learned your lessons to be patient, to have set boundaries in yourself. And then Saturn, delays these results. Your early romances are just full of coldness and of sudden separations. So this is how you would judge these, what happens when the Lord goes through these different houses, okay? So guys, this is my explanation of second Lord in the 7th house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And if you want to know where your second Lord is placed and if it's in the 7th house and what it's doing, for that, check out the links below. Check out my books, Astrology at the Speed of Light and Conjunctions at the Speed of Light. And when you get these books, I will send you the link to look at your own chart. Just make sure you follow the directions below. And remember, August 27th, my book on aspects comes out, where I talk to you about the most simplest way of looking at aspects in astrology. And it'll be learning at the speed of light, and you'll be, far better. Your predictive ability will be 20-30% better after just reading this simple book. All right? See you later.